Hello, everyone, and welcome. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on a topic that often sparks our imagination, largely thanks to its dramatic portrayal in books and on screen: criminal profiling. Think about shows like Criminal Minds or movies like The Silence of the Lambs. They often depict brilliant profilers who, almost like psychics, can conjure up a detailed picture of a killer from a single glance at a crime scene. But how much of that is reality, and how much is Hollywood magic? Our journey today is Criminal Profiling 101, what profiling can and can't do. We'll explore the real science and the real limitations of this fascinating investigative strategy. Its core purpose isn't to identify a specific person, but rather to offer law enforcement crucial insights into a perpetrator's likely behavior, motivations, and characteristics. It's a tool designed to narrow down suspect lists, link related crimes, and develop more targeted investigative strategies. To truly understand what criminal profiling is today, we need to glance back at its origins. Early forms emerged in the 1950s with cases like the Mad Bomber of New York. A psychiatrist, Dr. James A. Russell, provided a profile that remarkably aided in the suspect's arrest, showcasing the potential of behavioral analysis. The modern discipline, however, is largely credited to pioneering FBI agents like Robert Ressler and John Douglas, and forensic nurse Anne Burgess. They didn't just guess, they developed systematic research processes, famously interviewing incarcerated serial killers to understand their patterns and motivations. This deep dive into the minds of offenders laid the groundwork for the methodologies we see today. Let's break down some of the key approaches to profiling you might hear about. One of the most well-known is the FBI method, often called the Typological Approach. This classifies offenders and crime scenes into categories, like organized or disorganized, based on how much planning and control seems evident. It's about looking for recurring patterns. Then there's Investigative Psychology, founded by David Cantor. This approach is more empirically driven, meaning it applies peer-reviewed psychological research to draw inferences directly from an offender's actions, grounding the process in scientific evidence where possible. We also have Geographic Profiling, which analyzes the spatial distribution of crimes to predict an offender's likely residence or area of operation. It's about mapping out where a crime might have happened in relation to where the perpetrator lives or works. Broadly, profiling can also be categorized as inductive or deductive. Inductive profiling uses statistical data from past similar crimes to predict characteristics of an unknown offender, assuming predictable behavioral patterns. Deductive profiling, on the other hand, focuses on the unique aspects of a specific case, using logic and critical thinking to infer offender characteristics directly from forensic evidence and victim details. These approaches are built on a few foundational principles. The idea that behavior reflects personality suggests that actions at a crime scene reveal an individual's psychological traits. Behavioral consistency assumes an offender's crimes will share similarities, and homology proposes that similar crimes are committed by similar offenders, though this last one is often debated. You might also encounter terms like Modus Operandi, or MO, which refers to the consistent methods and tools an offender uses. Signature behavior describes unique actions not necessary for the crime but fulfilling psychological needs. Think of a specific ritual. Victimology is the study of a victim's background to gain insight into the offender's motivations, and linkage analysis connects similar crimes to the same perpetrator. Institutions like the FBI's Behavioral Analysis Unit, or BAU, are at the forefront of this work, practicing criminal investigative analysis. These are the real-world counterparts to the fictional teams we often see. So, why does criminal profiling remain such a trending topic, even with its long history? It's simple. Its persistent use in law enforcement, combined with its dramatic portrayal in popular media, keeps it firmly in the public eye. We're fascinated by the idea of understanding the criminal mind. This fascination, however, often leads to misunderstandings about what profiling truly entails and what it can realistically achieve. And this brings us to the crucial part of our discussion: the controversies, the debates, and the public questions that surround criminal profiling. While it's a valuable investigative tool, it's far from a perfect science. Perhaps the most significant criticism is the lack of empirical validation. Many critics point to insufficient scientific research and evidence to consistently support the reliability of many profiling methods. It's often said that studies struggle to definitively prove its accuracy and effectiveness. Another challenge is subjectivity and bias. Profiling often relies on the interpretation and intuition of the profiler, which can inadvertently introduce cognitive biases, potentially skewing investigations. This is where the art versus science debate truly comes into play. Where does intuition end and scientific procedure begin? And it's vital to clarify, criminal profiling is distinct from racial profiling. Racial profiling, which targets individuals based solely on protected characteristics, like race or ethnicity, is widely condemned as immoral, unethical, and illegal. Criminal profiling, by contrast, focuses on behavioral patterns and evidence, not demographics, aiming to understand how a crime was committed and why. Many fundamental principles, like the homology assumption, that similar crimes are committed by similar offenders, have been questioned and challenged by advancements in behavioral science. We've learned that human behavior is often far more complex and less predictable than previously assumed. Furthermore, the exaggerated depictions in popular culture create unrealistic public expectations. Profilers are not psychics. They don't have crystal balls. They're analysts, gathering data, looking for patterns, and offering educated hypotheses. The idea that a profiler can walk into a room and instantly describe a perpetrator's height, eye color, and favorite brand of cereal is simply untrue. Some experts even dispute its real-world value, arguing that behavioral profiling has not directly led to the apprehension of serial killers in many cases. Rather, profiles are often not definitive and act more as a guiding hand to narrow down an already large pool of information, rather than pointing directly to one suspect. It helps to focus an investigation, rather than solving it outright. Finally, there's concern over the lack of regulation in the field. Unlike many other scientific or psychological disciplines, there aren't always clear, standardized criteria for who qualifies as a professional criminal profiler. This can mean that the perceived credibility of a profile sometimes rests more on anecdotal police opinion than on rigorous, evidence-based data. So, what does the future hold for criminal profiling? Its continued relevance will depend on its ability to address these pervasive controversies head-on. To truly enhance its credibility and utility, the field needs to prioritize rigorous empirical research, validating its methodologies with strong scientific evidence. We need to see more standardized practices, clearer criteria for professional profilers, and ongoing efforts to overcome issues of subjectivity and bias. Educating both law enforcement and the public on its actual capabilities versus media portrayals will be crucial. A shift towards a more robust, empirically driven, and regulated approach is essential for criminal profiling to solidify its place as a trusted, truly scientific tool in law enforcement. It's not about finding a magic bullet, but about intelligently informing investigations. In essence, criminal profiling is a sophisticated investigative aid, a puzzle piece that helps build a clearer picture, not the entire completed puzzle. It offers guidance, possibilities, and hypotheses, helping investigators to look in the right directions. And like any tool, its effectiveness ultimately depends on who is wielding it and with what level of precision and integrity. Thank you for joining me today as we demystified criminal profiling. I hope this discussion has offered a clearer, more balanced understanding of what this fascinating, complex field truly can and cannot do.